All right. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar on compensation and pension benefits. Today is July 26, 2023. My name is Michael Cisneros, and I'm a training coordinator with the California Transition Assistance Program, or CalTAP. And before we get into the meat of the webinar, I'm going to go ahead and give you a rundown of the agenda and some housekeeping items. And then we'll get into a quick overview of what CalTAP's all about. Talk to you a little bit about your local interagency network coordinators. And then we'll hear from Ed Kierkeson from the San Mateo County Veteran Service Office, who's going to talk to you a little bit about that the claims and pensions process and the best place to go to get those processes started. So a little housekeeping with this webinar. We are keeping the chat closed to the attendees, and that's because as I'm speaking, we'll have Derek, who's going to be throwing resources into the chat for you guys to download. And we don't want your questions to get lost within all those resources that we're putting into the chat. So there is a Q&A feature that you can use. Putting those questions in that box will allow the panelists to answer those questions whenever they get the chance. If your question isn't answered right away, don't worry, we'll use it. We're probably going to use it to facilitate the questions and answers portion at the end of the event. With that being said, I do want to put a disclaimer out there with the information that we're going to be talking about today. Sometimes these questions that you have might get a little personal, might be a little complicated because of the background or the history of your situation. So we do ask that if you have any questions for the presenters today, that you try to keep them as general as possible. As I mentioned, Ed will talk to you about how you can go about finding your closest county veteran service office. And these are going to be the locations that you go to ask those more personal questions and get the more detailed answers that you're looking for. All right. So let's go ahead and move into the CalTAP overview. What is CalTAP? CalTAP is a transition assistance program that is put up through CalVet, California Department of Veteran Affairs. It's designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned state and federal benefits, as well as provide continuous support and assistance as the veterans' needs change over time. And so what we've done is we've developed a curriculum and we broke it down into different pathways that help veterans navigate those programs and services that are available to them through the federal government and through the state of California. So those pathways are an education pathway, we have an employment pathway, an entrepreneurship pathway, a core curriculum pathway. And then we also have a service rider pathway. We don't really mention the service rider pathway much, but we do have it. So if you do have anybody within your community or a family member or a friend that wants to work with veterans, feel free to send them to our website to check out some of that curriculum. It's just going to give you information about veteran military culture and how to actually work with veterans within your community. This is your veterans resource book. So you may have received an email today with a couple links in them, including a link to a PDF copy of this book. Derek's also going to throw a link into the chat for you to download this book as well. I like to say this book is like gold for veterans. So everything that we discuss when it comes to programs and services and benefits can be found in this book. It's going to talk to you about eligibility requirements. It will talk to you about the different forms that you'll need to fill out. And it will also tell you where you need to submit those forms or what you need to submit with them. So definitely take a chance to look through the book when you get it. Keep a copy on your phone or on your desktop. And if you're looking for a physical copy, you could always go to your county veteran service office and they should have a book there that you can take home with you. So how do you use CalTAP online? Well, this is what our website looks like, calvet.ca.gov. If you were to go to this homepage, right there in the middle of the screen, you see the CalTAP banner. When you click on that banner, it's going to take you to our pathways page, which looks like this. You'll find all those pathways that I mentioned earlier, the core curriculum, education, entrepreneurship, and whatnot. One thing I do want to bring your attention to before we move on is the archives page. So down at the bottom, you see the archives link that's circled. That is where we post all of our previously recorded webinars. So since COVID started, we went into lockdown and we started putting on webinars instead of our live events. With those webinars, we've recorded them and we've uploaded them to our website along with the PowerPoints. So if you want to go and check out some of the things that we've done, we've talked about financial literacy, we've talked about mental health issues, claims and compensation webinars are there as well. But you can go back and look at all of these webinars, look at the PowerPoints and gather all the resources that you need, phone numbers, names, information about forms. All that stuff is there for you to have. So take time to go through those videos and, hopefully you find something that can help you out in the future. So we'll go back to our pathways page. So if you were to click on any one of these pathways, you're going to take you to a modules page that looks like this. So this is the core curriculum module or the core curriculum pathway. And as you can see, there's different modules for different, topics. We have the VA healthcare system, claims and compensation is module 4. I believe down at the bottom that you can't see, but that's a financial literacy module. But if you're just curious about what your benefits are, you can always click on module number 5, and that will break it down for you in more detail. So what are those California benefits? Well, the main one is going to be your local interagency network coordinator. So we do have Kevin on the line right now, who is going to talk to you a little bit about what they do throughout the state, what the links do throughout the state. So I'm not going to step on his toes too much with this, but just know that they're kind of like, you can kind of consider them like the liaison between, the programs and services that are available to you through the state or the federal government, and even the resources that are available to you locally too. They're the ones that can help you get in contact with those and get in touch with those resources. So when he'll jump on after me and he'll tell you a little bit more about how they work with veterans across the state. Some other benefits that are available to you because of your veteran status here in California. The main one we get a lot of questions on is the college tuition and fee waiver. So this is a fee waiver that is available to your dependents. We have this available to veterans dependents because we want you to be able to use your own education benefits and not stress about having to transfer them to your dependents. So now, being a veteran here in California with a disability rating between 0 and 100 can actually get send your dependents to school, to any state-funded school, so any CSU, UC, or California Community College. There's also the veterans designation on your driver's license. Just now has the word veteran printed there, so you don't have to carry around a DD Form 214 anymore. And then your motor vehicle registration fee waiver, those are for our veterans who have a 100% disability rating, and your disability rating does have to affect your mobility. But if that's the case, you may be eligible to have your fees waived at the DMV. Some other benefits that you may be eligible for because of your veteran status. You have a reduced fishing and hunting license that's offered to veterans with a 50% disability rating. And there's also the state park pass that's offered at no cost. There are also tax programs out there for veterans. We have a disabled veteran property tax exemption program and a business license and tax and fee exemption program too. Definitely recommend reaching out to your county veteran service office if you have any questions about these benefits, or checking out your California Veterans Resource Book as well. Some divisions within CalVet. So if you think of CalVet, the Department of California, the California Department of Veteran Affairs, these are the divisions that fall underneath that department. So Veteran Services Division is what CalTAP falls under. We also have a Home Loans Division, a Women Veterans Division, a Minority and Underrepresented Veterans Division. And then we also have a division for our homes for long-term care and on our state cemeteries. Definitely check out our website to find out more information about these divisions. I know women's veterans and minority and underrepresented veterans have a newsletter that you could subscribe to find out, what kind of outreach opportunities they're going to be working on or what kind of programs they're promoting. So definitely take the time to look at that on our website. Speaking of websites, some common veteran websites. These are websites that you should be familiar with, not just as a California veteran, but as a veteran in general. VA.gov is kind of like the hub right now for all benefits. So definitely recommend you reaching out to your county veteran service office. But if you do want to check it out yourself, you can always go here to this website. This is where you can file claims for your compensation. get enrolled into the VA healthcare system, take advantage of education benefits, and even view your own records, military records. All right, so if you do want to keep in touch with what CalTAP's doing, you want to know more about what the webinars are going to be in the future, what topics we're going to be focusing on for the month, you can always provide your non-DoD email to the CalTAP inbox. It's checked daily. We get that information. We'll go ahead and put you on our mailing list and send you out that information every month. You can also go to My Calvet and register on that homepage. That's just going to tailor the information on the website to what you're interested in. And then check out our social media pages. So we do have an Instagram, a YouTube page, and I believe that's a Facebook page. Yeah. And then attend our webinars. So if you go to our Eventbrite page, I believe it's caltap.eventbrite.com. You'll find our registration page, and any webinars that you see on that registration page are free for you to enroll into. Once you register, you will get the confirmation email with the meeting details inside. And then finally, we do have a survey. The survey is not necessary for you to fill out, but if you do want to take the time to let us know what we did well today, what we could work on in the future, we will definitely take those into consideration. And we're always trying to make this program work for you guys, and we always want to reach more and more people. So that being said, this is what My Calvet looks like. So if you go to our website, on any page that you land on, you will find that My Calvet login or registration button. This is actually an outdated image of our newsletter. Our newsletter, it has gone through a slight change, mostly with color and actually, you know what? This actually looks pretty current. So this is actually what you will see if you were to give us your email address. Every month we do send out a newsletter that has our workshops posted. We also get a message from our deputy secretary that's going to talk about the focus of that month. So definitely check it out if you want to stay in touch. So quick overview of the CalTAP program. I want to give you guys enough time to hear from Kevin and from Ed as well. So if you guys have any questions about what I just touched on, or the CalTAP program, or even just questions about your benefits in general, please feel free to email me. That's my direct email address for my own inbox. I check it daily as well. So if I can't find the answers to your questions, I could definitely direct you to somebody who can. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and pass it on to Kevin Graves. Kevin is the Bay Area link, and he's going to talk to you about how the local interagency network coordinators work with veterans across the state. So when you're ready, Kevin, go ahead.
I am ready. First slide, please. Thank you. So this is a map that shows that we have 8 links throughout the state of California. They're identified by region. So if you are living in this area or you're moving to another area of California, we recommend that you contact the link in your region because they are much more familiar with the resources that are available in their area, as opposed to, I don't know, everything in Inyo County. I don't know if anybody knows everything in Inyo County, but I surely don't. And so it's best to go to a link that's in your region. So we give you this map to help you with that. Or if you're talking to a fellow veteran who's struggling with an issue, we do the same thing you're going to hear about now throughout the whole state. It's just a different link. And the acronym, because we all love acronyms, is great from the standpoint that we are the link from you in your region back to Sacramento and the resources and benefits that are offered there. So, and this is also in the, they're listed in the resource book also. Can I get the next slide, please? So this is kind of what we do. We provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. We make referrals directly with service provider networks. In other words, we're in contact with other providers of different benefits and resources within the region, and we can refer you to them if you have a need that isn't being fulfilled by California. Because it's important to understand that when you were in the service, you worked for Uncle Sam. You didn't work for Uncle Gavin. So a lot of your resources and benefits come from the federal government. So there is a a combination of how do I get those, what's the best direction to go. And so contacting us, we can help guide you in the right direction. You'll hear that a lot from those of us at CalVet, that if we don't know the answer, we can get you the answer. We assist with local emergencies. Recently, earlier in the year, it was the floods. They set up a lot of FEMA-backed disaster relief centers. We provided manpower at those centers throughout all of Northern California specifically, and a little bit in Southern California, to make sure that if there's any loss that was to a veteran specific, if they lost anything, if they lost their home, if they lost their DD-214, medications, anything like that, that we would be there to help them get back what it is that they lost, or to even connect them with different benefits, even like with the California Insurance Commission, to make sure that they're not being ripped off by their insurance company, that type of thing. Also, we provide leadership and advocacy to the local community. And this is important because we're in touch with a lot of the powers that be within the community. And we make sure that they understand the benefits of having veterans living within their community. We get in touch with employers and make sure they know the benefits of hiring veterans. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And so we're advocates on your behalf. We want to make sure that in the area you live, that they're aware of the fact that you are a benefit to their community and an asset to their community, and that they should treat you as such. Next slide, please. So we do a lot of this by partnering with some sister agencies within the state for employment. We work very closely with the EDD and the Americans Job Center. EDD has dedicated employees that work on your behalf and only for you. They don't do anything else within the EDD except for work for veterans. They're dedicated employees, and they can help you everything from developing your resume through getting a job. And we also, in most locations, also have somebody that's dedicated to going out and finding veterans that, finding employers that want to hire veterans. And again, as I said before, advocating on the benefits of having veterans work within their organization. Leadership skills that you've learned in the military, working with others, understanding guidance and direction, all those things that sometimes aren't being taught in today's world. We make sure that we find veterans that are empathetic to that, and that would be and that they understand the benefit of working with a veteran. With regards to some of the benefits that Michael talked about, I think every one of those benefits you can talk to your county veteran service officer about. And the state of California, myself and my colleagues depend heavily. Ed is a good friend of mine here that's going to be speaking. I'm going to give him the bulk of the time because he's got a great presentation. But we rely heavily on them to do a lot of the footwork for us. They're the ones that secure your eligibility for a lot of these programs. We don't do that. We rely on the veteran service officer to do that for a lot of reasons. But mostly, we want to get you into their office because they know the right questions to ask you to make sure you get everything that you have coming to you. And also from the VA side, they study the code, which is changing almost daily, to make sure that you're going to get a fully completed claim, or that you will get all the level of disability that you have earned. And they're experts at it. They do it all the time. If I tried to do that for you, I'd be doing you a disservice. So we refer almost exclusively for these benefits that are offered within the state to the County Veteran Service Office. Also, we work really closely with our big brother, the VA. One thing I wanted to, Michael mentioned that page that you saw on there. You don't want to go to the VA to file a claim. You want to go to your county veteran service office. The VA is who you're filing the claim against. Now, it can be done. You can do it on e-benefits, but I really don't think you're getting the full understanding and the full benefits that may be available to you if you try to do it yourself. Again, if you do it that way, you're actually going to the organization that you're filing the claim against to ask them to file a claim on your behalf. It's better if you go through an intermediate person, or somebody that's going to be an advocate on your behalf. And most of our county veteran services office use CalVet as their power of attorney. And therefore, if there's an appeal, you're represented by the state of California, which can be advantageous also. So please listen carefully to what Ed has to say, and he's really your first line of defense. Next page, please. Oh, well, good. That was it. I wrapped it up pretty well. I'm going to turn this over to Ed, I believe, at this point. Here's my contact information. You're best off using my personal email address, although they both end up in the same email somehow. And that, you know what? If Derek, would you put my cell phone number in the chat for me? It should be. It's not on this page. I'm sure you have it, or it's 925-817-7370. That's my work cell, and I invite anybody out there. And we have a good crowd out there today. Good to see all you guys. Please call me if you have any questions you need clarification on. I'm going to shut up now. Ed, it's all yours. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Kevin. All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm Ed Kirkson. I'm the County San Mateo Veteran Services Officer. I'm also the manager for the County San Mateo Veteran Services Office. And what I'll be talking to you about today is essentially the kind of services that we provide and how we can help you, and more importantly, how you can get a hold of us to access some of that help. So, all right, so let's go ahead with the slides here. Awesome. So, kind of harking back to what Kevin was talking about, this to me is really important, and more and more often I've been really stressing this. You can kind of see the hierarchy, if you will, of how these programs work. Obviously, the VA, the federal agency, and there's actually multiple federal agencies: Veterans Benefit Administration, Health Administration, cemeteries and burials, etc. Then you have the California Department of Veterans Affairs, and below that you have the counties themselves, and our county veteran services officers. The thing I like to stress is this: is that the folks who work at Calvet are not VA employees. Okay, just like I'm not a VA employee. Why that's important is because the folks at Calvet fight on behalf of California veterans. They fight to make sure that you're getting everything that you're entitled to. The folks at the county, we're county employees. We're not VA employees. We fight to make sure the folks in our county are getting the benefits that they're entitled to. So when you look at this little layout here, Calvet, state, and county are your advocates, typically supporting you as you go to the top, the federal, and look for those benefits. So anybody who's in California has both the state and the county in their corner when it comes to this fight. Next slide, please. All right. So I've mentioned that there's multiple departments at the federal level. There's the Veterans Health Administration, Veterans Benefit Administration, and the National Cemetery Administration. So the two that I think are really important to keep in mind and understand the sort of distinction is between the Veterans Health Administration, VHA, and Veterans Benefit Administration. All too often, I talk to people who are receiving services from one and then kind of assume that they're automatically being connected to both, and it's not necessarily true. And we've done a lot of work to really bridge the gap and create really strong working connections with the folks at VHA, the Health Administration. And they do a lot of referrals to us, but they'll be the first person, they'll be the first ones to tell you they don't do claims. Okay. Health Administration is exactly what it sounds like. They run health benefits, hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies. And here in this area, you happen to be surrounded by some outstanding VHA hospitals. You got Palo Alto, which is supported by Stanford. You have San Francisco, which is supported by UCSF. You got the Menlo campus. You've also got multiple campuses in San Francisco, the San Bruno Clinic, etc. It's actually a premier location for health coverage through the VA. We have people that come here from not only across the United States, but veterans that actually move here from other parts of the world when they're receiving specialized treatment. One, because it's offered here, and two, because again, it's supported by two of the premier hospitals and schools, if you will, Stanford and UCSF in the world, where actually a lot of research is being done, cutting edge research on things like traumatic brain injury, sleep apnea, etc. So, but keep in mind, if you walk into a VHA system, you're not necessarily going to get the support you need to do a claim. That's why I talk about the benefits of the VBA, which is what I focus on. So that's compensation, education and training, pension programs, life insurance, VRNE, which is an outstanding program for service-connected veterans that need to get retrained in order to be able to go back to work, because the service-connected disabilities that they have are preventing them from gainfully pursuing whatever career they were trained in. National Cemetery Administration, again, we can assist you in accessing the benefits there. And not a super popular conversation or topic, but they can help you with all sorts of things, including helping to offset the cost of burials for veterans, providing headstones, markers, medallions, actually being able to help veterans get burial plots at various California and federal veterans cemeteries. So if you have any questions about that, our office can also help assist. And then, of course, CalVet, and you guys heard a little bit about all the programs that CalVet provides. Again, CalVet is a state program. Your advocates. Most important thing you're going to remember, if you can take anything away from this. Next slide. All right, so what do we do? So we provide veterans and dependents free benefit information, assistance, and counseling on all things veterans related. So our job is to help veterans not only get the benefits that they're entitled to, but make sure they're getting all the benefits that they're entitled to. So in 2020, for example, across the state, we brought in 540 million new annualized dollars in benefits and 336 million in continuing annualized benefits for California veterans. So there is a sort of a selfish benefit for both the state and the counties to support CVSOs. We help local residents bring down federal dollars, big federal dollars. That's our job. That's what we're experts at. Next slide. All right, so the types of assistance that you can find at your typical CVS office. So comprehensive benefits counseling. We're going to talk to you about all the programs that are out there. We're going to get to know you, learn more about your service, find out why you're there, and then kind of sit down and really craft a one, understanding of what's available to you, and two, lay out a roadmap as to how to access those benefits. I work closely with the Veterans Diversion Court, the Veterans Treatment Court, service providers like the Vet Center. I work with the VA, I work with the American Legions, I work with other organizations that support veterans. My job is to not only help provide the information around what you can get through the VA and CalVet, but also, as needed, connect you with other resources to help you in whatever other area you're looking for assistance with. DIC, a very important program for the survivors of veterans who pass away. Veterans who are service connected, in certain cases, if they pass away, their spouses or dependents can continue to receive a portion of their disability payment in perpetuity. Burial benefits, claims and compensation, probably the number one program that we support veterans with is we do claims. Pension life insurance. Pension and life insurance, the pension program itself, and so I don't believe we're talking about the same pension program that was mentioned earlier. There is a pension program, which is a low-income veterans pension program that I can talk a bit more about, but there are life insurance programs that are available to the VA that we can help inform you about and help you connect with. We can assist you in terms of questions around benefits that are available to you if you are receiving a military retirement pension. Records requests, we can help you access your DD-214 if you lost it. You can get a hold of your service treatment records, service records, etc. We can assist you with discharge upgrades. College fee waiver, which is probably one of the most popular programs in my office, and it was mentioned earlier, if you're a service-connected veteran, your dependents can go to any California state college and have the tuition waived, which is actually a really nice benefit that's exclusive to California, that has been provided by California Department of Veterans Affairs. And of course, the veterans designation, which includes your disabled veterans license plate, the indicator on your driver's license, the Purple Heart license plates. It says a whole slew of programs that CalVet has worked hard to implement with the California DMV. We will tell you all about them. We will tell you how to qualify for them, and then we will complete the paperwork that you need to access those programs. Next slide. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of probably what is the absolute number one program that we assist veterans with. So what is service-connected disability? So a service-connected disability is any condition, injury, or disease caused by, aggravated by, or first diagnosed during military service, as long as it's chronic in nature or has residuals. What does that mean? That means you have to have some sort of residual or disability today, actively, in order to file a claim. If you broke your leg in service and there is absolutely no residuals today, they're not going to compensate you for what happened in service. Now, they will compensate you if you've got arthritis in that leg, or if you have a gait as a result of the way it healed, etc. Okay, so it has to be an existing or current disability, mental health, chronic diseases, aches and pains, crushed vertebrae, you name it, as long as it's currently diagnosable. Next question, or next slide, sorry. So what is required for service-connected disability? So again, the disability that you're going to be seeking to file a claim for is something that happened during military service. Now, keep in mind that includes when you're on leave, okay? So if you're on leave for the weekend and you get into a car accident, as long as it was not gross and negligent behavior on your part, i.e. you were drunk driving, you are still covered under service-connected disability, just as much as if you fell off the back of a 5-ton truck and broke your leg or tore your shoulder up. So injuries, diseases, exposures, events make up the vast majority of reasons why veterans experience ongoing disabilities after service. Again, it has to be a current condition. Now, there's two types of disability claims. There's an evidence-based disability claim and a presumptive disability claim. I don't think we have a lot of slides in here to talk about the PACT Act, but the PACT Act has been in the news a lot lately. The PACT Act is an example of legislation that pushes forward presumptive service-connected disability. I'm going to talk very quickly about what the difference is between the two. And of course, when you come to my office or any VSO's office, we're going to sit down and see which of these might qualify under. So a presumptive disability is one in which there is a preponderance of evidence, and the VA has conceded that based on the preponderance of evidence, as long as certain circumstances are met, they're not going to contest the eligibility of your service-connected disability claim. For example, the VA has conceded that if you served in Vietnam, boots on the ground, or within 12 nautical miles of the coastal waterways during the Vietnam conflict, you were likely exposed to Agent Orange. There are 16 diseases that are associated most commonly with exposure to Agent Orange. If you meet that criteria, i.e. you served in Vietnam or in the intercoastal waterways or 12 nautical miles off the coast, and you develop any of those diseases, all we need to do to prove your claim is essentially prove your service, which is the information that's going to be in your DD-214 or in your service records, and have a current diagnosis showing that you have that condition. That's it. It's presumed, again, because you were there and you have that disease, that there's a linkage between the exposure to Agent Orange and that disease. The PACT Act created a whole new list of diseases, cancers, illnesses that have been associated with service in Southwest Asia. Either exposure to burn pits, fine particulate matter, toxins, such as depleted uranium ammunition, etc. They have identified a list of diseases that if you serve either on the land or even in the air above these locations during the period of time that's covered, which for the most part is from the Gulf War forward, you have a presumptive case. All right. Evidence-based case, which is the other side, is when there isn't a presumptive condition set. So I'll give you an example. You go to combat. You're in combat in Afghanistan. You come home. You're suffering from some form of mental health illness, whether it's PTSD, anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, etc. You want to file a claim. So the first thing we're going to do is get a diagnosis. What exactly is it? What type of disease, mental health issue are you dealing with? Okay. Next, we're going to build a case that links what you're dealing with today with your service. In this case, we're going to show deployment to a combat zone. We're going to pull together evidence that includes medical support letters from psychologists that treat you, that talk about the medical reasonableness and likeliness that the exposure to combat, death, etc., that you experienced while deployed contributed to or caused the mental health issue that you're being treated with right now. We will actually take your own lay statement where you talk about the experiences and how they affected you. And we'll put together an evidence-based packet to support your claim of disability for whatever mental health issue or physical issue. you have. This is where the CVSO becomes really critical. As Kevin mentioned, we do this a lot. We've done this a lot. We continue to do this. Myself and every VSR in my office is accredited by CalVet, by the California Department of Veterans Affairs. What that means is that all of us can act as your power of attorney. We can prosecute the claims on your behalf. More importantly, it allows the authority that has all of your records to share them with us, so that I look directly into the VA system and I see every file that's in there. When you're going through your exams, I can access the copies of the findings, the doctor's notes, I can see everything that's going on. Why that's critical is because we are keeping an eye on the VA to make sure they're doing things right, that they're adjudicating properly. A good portion of our claims we appeal because either we don't think it was adjudicated properly, or the, for example, degree of service-connected disability we think is too low, right? We have a tremendous amount of experience working with 38 CFR, which governs VA benefits, and we will go in and dig into it until we identify the proper rating that you should have. Or is this denial proper? Or in many cases, for example, the denial may be one where they said, well, we would like to, but we just don't have this information. Fine, we'll work with you to gather more information and file a supplemental appeal. We understand the appeals process all the way to being able to take it up to a veterans law judge in the Board of Appeals, where you're going to have CalVet sitting in your corner and you're going to be talking to a law judge fighting for your case. So we'll guide you through that entire process, but more importantly, we're going to make sure that you are getting what you're entitled to. I think one of the biggest challenges that comes when you apply for benefits yourself to the VA is you get a denial and you kind of say, well, I guess that's it. I guess I'm just out of luck. Well, that's not necessarily true. And quite honestly, I would say that a significant portion of the claims that we file end up getting some kind of a denial and or lower rating than we believe they are warranted. And if you didn't have somebody who knew what they were talking about, you may very well just sit there and shrug your shoulders and say, okay, it is what it is, and walk away. Well, that's why you go to CVSO's office, because we're going to make sure that what they did is correct. And quite honestly, I've seen mistakes that are just plain simple misapplication of veterans law, all the way up to, complicated cases where they spell out for us exactly what it takes for us to get it over the threshold, and we work diligently to make it happen. So, and I'm sorry, I'm spending a lot of time on service-connected disability, but 80+ % of the claims or folks that come into our office are filing service-connected disability claims. And that's what we do, and that's what we spend the bulk of our time. And just this last year alone, we brought in very close to almost $7 million worth of VA disability claims just for San Mateo County alone. So next slide. I just talked about how we do it. Next slide. Yeah. So essentially, in a nutshell, this is what's going to happen. We're going to gather the evidence. We're going to talk about is in your service record. If it's not in your service record, what kind of alternative evidence can we gather? We know the ins and outs. We can, buddy statements, lay statements, looking for markers in your service records. You name it. We're gonna comb through everything to make sure that we can meet all the criteria necessary for successful service-connected disability. We go ahead and we file your claim on your behalf. The next thing that's going to happen is the VA is going to set you up for a compensation and pension exam, a CMP exam. What that is two things. They're going to either send you to their doctors or to a contracted doctor. That doctor is going to examine you, one, to verify the veracity of the diagnosis that you're providing, and two, also the extent of the disability. Because one, you get service connected. Two, what's the percentage of disability? So that's information that they will then provide to the Veteran Services rep at the VA who's evaluating your case. They will then take into account all of the evidence that we provided. They will then take into account whatever other evidence I think is pertinent and necessary to make a good decision. And they will put all that information together. They will adjudicate and come back with a finding, whether they agree, disagree, if they disagree, why they disagree, and if they agree, how much they think your disability is worth percentage-wise. Next slide. All right, discharge upgrades. So discharge upgrades can be a little tricky, okay? First thing I want to dispel is if you have anything, say, other than an audible, just being a good person out of service, there's no automatic process that's just going to upgrade it because you didn't get in trouble for 20 years after you got out of service. Your discharge is your discharge is your discharge. It's what it is. Okay. Now, there are ways to petition one to upgrade it, to petition for clemency. Okay. Each individual circumstances, what's going to be factored into whether that's possible or not. Okay. The best way to start is there's a website right here, discharge upgrade instructions. If you go there, there's actually a simple self-service tool that can help you begin to understand if you might be eligible for a discharge upgrade. Now, there are multiple levels to discharge upgrade. Discharge upgrades are critical, and it's important to have a group of people that understand how discharges work, understand that each contract that you do with the military can be considered a separate enlistment, how that plays into issues. For example, I've got people that come into my office who have received a bad conduct discharge that were on their second or third contract and perhaps had undiagnosed PTSD from a deployment, and that undiagnosed PTSD manifested itself in self-medication. That self-medication resulted in poor disciplinary actions on the part of that veteran, and that person ends up getting booted out of the military. So now we got to peel this onion back, right? So we got to get this individual into treatment first and foremost. We need to treat the cause of the issue before they hurt themselves. Second, we need to start looking into what responsibility the Department of Defense and the VA have in taking care of this veteran. And third, once we start to really unravel this, what else needs to be rectified? Was this a unfairly assigned discharge, right? And if so, what are our recourses to address this? Because the reality is people walk around with bad paper struggle multiple ways, whether it's that you don't get to take advantage of some of the benefits that are available to you. A lot of county, state, federal jobs give extra bonus points for veterans that are applying for jobs if you've got an honorable discharge, right? There are a slew of different programs that are impacted by your discharge status. So there is a pathway. It's not the easiest. It really does help to have some advice on how to proceed and look into it. Again, I would start with this website and then come into our office. Let's have a broader conversation about the entire sort of spectrum of issues that need to probably be addressed. We can help with collecting supporting documentation. I can help you get a copy of your DD-214. I can help walk you through what a buddy statement looks like, a testament of achievements, medical records, etc. We can help you understand how to put that case together. For those of you that live in San Francisco, Source of Plowshare is an organization that actually has attorneys that operate pro bono to help veterans. There is a loosely affiliated organization in San Francisco County that I can put you in contact with also. But for those of you that live in San Francisco County, Source of Plowshares actually specializes in this, so it's not a bad idea to reach out to them also. Next question. Next slide. Pardon me. Okay, how do you find your CVSO? Next slide. Okay, so the online resource book, or if you were able to get a hard copy, actually has a complete directory of all county veteran services offices. If you go to the Calvet website, there's actually a CVSO lookup that can look up by county or zip code number. Each county in the state of California is required by law to have a veteran services officer appointed. Every county, to the most part, unless you talk about the smallest little counties in the corner of the state, typically are going to have multiple folks assigned to the Veteran Services Office that are typically paid for by the actual county themselves. I think Modoc County might only have one person, but he's really good. That's Harry, and he's damn sharp. But there's a wealth of resources available to you. One of the things I like to tell people is reach out to your local VSO. There is a benefit in being able to actually walk into somebody's office and sit down with someone and see that person face to face. Although if you have questions, every VSO is accredited under Calvet. We have access to the VA files. If you file POA with Butte County. Every county has access to it. But again, I really encourage you to reach out to your local VSO, because that's going to help build a relationship with someone who you have direct access with. Next slide. And so, as I mentioned, Calvet, find a service provider. Next slide. You type in your zip code, maximum distance. They're going to give you there's a ton of different programs that are available. I'm going to say this much for my office, and I think every veteran service office in the county, the state. I think it doesn't matter if you walked into my office and you want to talk about, Calvet home loan. I'm going to connect you with the person that's going to help you. Okay. If you walked in my office and said, "Hey, listen, I want to talk about VR&E," right? We're going to do everything we can to connect you with the services that you need, right? The Calvet handbook is fantastic, and the website is fantastic at helping you drill down and find the specific resources. But again, we're always going to do everything we can to make sure that even if you call the wrong person or the wrong group, we're still going to try to get you back on track and get you to who you need to get to. Next slide. There's a phone number, 1-844-SERVET. If you call that, it'll ask the same thing. Give us a zip code, and it'll actually give you the contact number for your local veteran services office. Next slide. For those of you in San Mateo County that are interested in reaching out and working with our office is located at 550 Quarry Road in San Carlos. I would suggest that you call our office number first. That's the number at the bottom, 650-802-6598. I have a person that answers the phone. If you get a voicemail, please just leave the voicemail, because I'm sure she's working with somebody else. She will call you back. She'll find out how we can help you. And we can help you in multiple ways. You want to come into the office, more than welcome to. We'll set up an appointment so that when you get in, you don't have to sit in the lobby, wait forever for somebody to pick your number or find you. Come in, we'll have you assigned to a VSR. You go meet the VSR. We'll have a good conversation with them. If you want to do this online, we'll do this online. If you want to start this over the phone, we'll do this over the phone. Calvet and the VA has done fantastic work over the course of the last few years with the pandemic, helping to facilitate the ability for us to do electronic signatures, to be able to share information electronically. I have done claims for people who lived in San Mateo County when we first started and ended up moving out of the county to another state, and I finished their claims because we can essentially still do everything online and over the phone. But I do think there's a real value in sitting down and talking to someone face to face in privacy, and especially when you have an opportunity to talk to another veteran, somebody who kind of understands where you're coming from. In fact, myself, the two VSRs that I have that are veteran services reps, that I have three. Two of them were also in the military. All three of us are service connected. So not only do we understand the laws and rules and regulations, we've actually been through the process ourselves. So, we want to avail everything that we have, including our own personal experiences, in helping you succeed in getting what you're entitled to. Next slide. Okay.
All right.
There's my email, which wasn't on the last slide. I just wanted to point that out. But thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ed. That's a lot of information and great information for all of us to have. And like Kevin said, and like Ed said, and like I've said in the past, definitely the CVSOs are where you want to start. They're the ones that can hold your hand throughout the whole process and make sure that everything goes smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead now and open up the floor. I think Derek was the one who was handling the Q&A part. I'm not sure if you had some questions that you were able to answer already, Derek, or if there's anything in there that's needed to be answered by Ed or myself. But go ahead and take it away.
All right. Yeah, I figured I'd turn my camera on for this portion. So yeah, great presentation. And we do have some questions that came in. So I'm just going to kind of read these out loud in case anybody also had the same question and kind of piques their interest too. So Anthony asked, this is kind of a California specific question. Working with a veteran that's 100% with P&T scheduler. He knows about the registration fee waiver through DMV, but the veteran also mentioned a new vehicle tax waiver. If this is true, And if so, what's the application number? I'm only familiar with the motor vehicle registration waiver for 100% with mobility. I'm not sure about an actual sales tax or vehicle tax waiver. We can certainly look it up and maybe find some more information. But if anybody else has heard of that type of benefit, maybe chime in, but it's not something specifically I've heard of. So that just kind of might be a hearsay one. And again, just maybe just clarification exactly what that veteran was speaking of. So that's my best answer on that.
I would say this much: there is constant legislation that's being pushed for veterans, and it's in various stages, oftentimes at the legislature. I'm not aware of a program that waives any of your sales tax for a vehicle purchase, but the disabled license plate fee waiver, essentially, if you qualify for it, waives the VLF fee. If you want to, it could be considered tax, but it waives the VLF fee for one vehicle for that individual. So I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but if you're specifically referring to a sales tax, I'm personally not aware of one, but I would also want to do the research because, again, legislation passes all the time, and sometimes it slips under the radar and we don't catch it.
Great, thank you, Ed. Another question that comes in is, what about illnesses suffered due to toxic waste from Treasure Island Navy base that has been provided to be present during my time in service there? So again, maybe along the lines of a traditional service connection claim, but maybe just kind of speak about how that aligns with the presumptive conditions as well.
So that's actually an outstanding question. I'll tell you why it's an outstanding question. The PACT Act, which was passed last year, has actually really emphasized and shifted the responsibility for understanding the potential exposure to toxins back onto the VA and the DoD. Prior to this, it really was up to you to make the case that there was toxins over on Treasure Island. The thing is, the DoD and the VA have a comprehensive database of all the potential toxins that existed in every base, boat, airplane, you name it, okay, in service. The PACT Act requires now the VA to complete what's called a TERRA memo. It's Toxic Exposure Risk Assessment Memo. They have to go through your service record, identify all the places that you were located at, access the database that lists all the potential toxins that were present during that time period at every place that you were located at, and complete a memo with a risk assessment that details this individual was at this location and the following toxins are known to have been present at that location during the period of time. Okay. Now what we need to do is understand, so what's your current disability and how is it related to that toxin? So if it was asbestos, for example, there are certain diseases that are associated with exposure to asbestos, right? You understand what I'm saying? So we got to start building that link and creating that link. But if you were on Treasure Island and you served on Treasure Island and you have been diagnosed with a disease, then the first thing we need to do, if you're not service connected, and even if you are service connected, but regardless, you need to reach out to VHA. I have a contact. If you're not service connected, you never enrolled in VHA, I got a personal contact you can put you in touch with. She will walk you through the process. You want to request a toxic exposure screening, okay? Put it back on the VA to begin doing the research. If they come back and say, hey, the following toxins were coincidental with that person's service, we're going to then take it from there. We're going to identify what you're diagnosed with. We're going to get the medical supporting evidence, and we're going to put a claim in together. We're actually going to use the TERRA memo itself to actually support your claim as evidence. I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Ed. And the questions are kind of flooding in now, as expected. So I'm going to go through these as best as I can, and given the time frame that we have. So just please bear with me and be patient as we're reading along. So Alvaro asked a question in relation to being deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, has 2 campaign ribbons. Problem is that his DD-214 does not state any of the deployments. And he was told that he needs a deployment order so that they can add that to his DD-214. And he says he even has medals and write-ups from his chain of command. how exactly can a veteran prove that they were stationed in country? Because my understanding is DD 214 is not going to specifically say that alone. It's just going to be based on your duty station, maybe stateside. But if you had campaign medals, I think that's pretty straightforward. But maybe Ed, you can provide clarification on that one.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I'm a former Marine. Okay, so I apologize if what I say is a little blunt to those of you that worked as admin in the military. But the reality is that it's an admin person that's doing your DD 214 on the way out. Oftentimes it's not double checked. There's errors on your DD 214s. Okay, things get omitted. We'll reach out to the DoD. There's a process for having your DD 214s updated. Okay, and yes, we collect all the evidence to support. The more evidence you have, the more that we are able to, the easier it is to work with the DoD to have your DD 214 updated appropriately. Okay. Yes, we see it all the time, and yes, there's paths to get that rectified.
Thank you.
Takes a while though. FYI, just FYI, they're slow, about 8-9 months, but we get it fixed.
Nick asks, do you work with active duty service members prior to retirement, about 6 to 12 months out?
Love to work with active duty. Love it. I love it because it gives me an opportunity to get you squared away before you get out. A lot of mistakes made on the way out, basically based on not knowing what to do. So absolutely, reach out to us. We'll get you set up. Make sure that you cover every base, cross every T, dot every I on the way out. So when you're done, when you get out, you are maxing out on everything you're entitled to. And keep your nose clean for that last 8 to 12 months.
Nick also followed up that, are there any complications? Let's say if a veteran in California retires here, sets roots here, and then decides to move out of state, as far as the representation, or like beginning a claim or utilizing Calvet and then switching to other state reps, like are there any complications with that?
No, so 2 things to keep in mind here. I can represent anybody in this country with my accreditation. I'm also I have national accreditation, so I have access to different databases. So do the folks in my office. The 2 things to keep in mind is that state benefits are state benefit specific. So once you move out of California, you move to Tennessee, then you're going to be, whatever benefits California has are not necessarily going to be the benefits you're going to find in Tennessee. So you're going to be subject to whatever the state level benefits are. As far as the VA is federal. So VA benefits are the same across. I always say this. If you like the person you're working with, you've got a good, strong working relationship, you're in the middle of a process, other VSRs kind of tend to be a little hesitant to pick up somebody else's sort of like claim in the middle of the process, especially if you're claiming someone in the appeals process. But that being said, I think there's a lot of value in being able to work with someone local. So go by feel, but don't think that if you left here and you're working with the VSO in San Francisco, and you go to Arizona and you want to finish up a claim with the person in San Francisco, that you can keep working with them. Just understand they're not going to necessarily be able to help you connect with any Arizona specific benefits. You're going to want to reach out to the Arizona VSO folks for that. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Ed. Anthony asks, can attendees get a copy of this PowerPoint? I just dropped a PDF into that chat so that everybody should be able to download that and take that home with them to review all of this information today. Again, this actual recording is going to be placed on our website and our YouTube channel if you'd like to go back to highlight anything that we talked about today. I think it's a 2-part question from Anonymous here. What educational resource can a veteran get if they have an OTH discharge? And following that up with, can my discharge status be upgraded for an OTH for DUI?
That's one where we're going to sit down and go over all the details to understand what the potential is. Okay. And the reason I say that is, for example, if you're stationed stateside and your conduct is other than honorable, and there really is nothing to hinge it on, it is what it is. If you deployed twice to Iraq or Afghanistan, Iraq, or once to whatever, you came back with PTSD and it was not diagnosed properly, you were not given the treatment that you needed, and as a result, that's a mitigating circumstance. Then we're going to talk about how we can argue that, right? It's case by case, though. So this is a great example of where you want to reach out to your VSO and have that conversation and kind of get into the weeds with them based on your specific case.
Absolutely. And a lot of this is case by case basis. So definitely encourage you to follow those resources for finding and connecting with a VSO to kind of review all this stuff. So just kind of maybe a few more here. Daryl asked, what do I need to file for a property tax waiver? So that's going to be your disability rating and award letter. And you're going to file that with your county assessor's office. Ed's office and the CVSO can also assist you with that and make sure you're just kind of, you know, crossing your T's and dotting your I's with that service as well.
Keep in mind, you don't have to be permanent total. You do have to be 100%, but individual unemployability also counts as the 100% for the purposes of property tax waiver. If they tell you it don't, come talk to me. I've squared more than one assessor away before.
Just a few more here. Let's see. Daisy asks, I want to file for the PACT Act, but I was told that it wouldn't make a difference if I could get connected for it since I already have 100% due to UI. I have a few conditions. This is why I'm unable to work. My recommendation would always be get it service connected, even if it doesn't make a difference. But Ed, maybe you can provide some clarification on that as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is very high level. And then again, you want to have this conversation with the VSO specifically so you can kind of get into, you know, the specifics of your particular claim. But if you're, you know, if you're IU, you're not at 100%. You're being paid at 100% because you qualify for the IU program. If you start working, you can get booted off the IU program. Okay, it's individual unemployability. It is based on your inability to find, get, and maintain gainful employment. If you're P&T, permanent total IU, we want to talk about that's part of what you, when you come into my office, we're going to talk about all the options and I'm going to lay out all the potential risks. If you're permanent and total, the VA has taken your file, closed it up, put it away, said, have a nice life. The only way they'll ever open it up is if there's some risk of fraud, which is minuscule, or you file another claim. Then they have the right to go back and look at everything. These are just conversations that we're going to have. Me personally, if you've got one of the diseases that are associated with the PACT Act and you meet the presumptive conditions, why not? Why wouldn't you? Right? You're right. It may not get you to 100%. VA math sucks. But for the purposes of DIC and other purposes, it could be of value. And plus, you don't know how severe that disability might be rated. So in my office, we will not file anything until the veteran says file it. Before we file it, we're going to have a lengthy conversation about all the potential pros and cons, options, idiosyncrasies, you name it, so that you're making an informed decision before filing it. But I would not take just any, you know, sort of non-expert's advice on whether to file or not. I go talk to an expert and then make that decision.
All right. Well, I apologize. We aren't able to get through each one of them due to the sake of time. But we are more than willing and able to answer these questions offline for you. So if you wanted to connect to any one of us directly with the training coordinators, Kevin or Ed, our contact information is here and we'll be happy to make that connection for you however you need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Michael, who can kind of wrap us up. And then just want to say thanks again to everybody and our presenters for joining today. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Great questions and answers session. Lots of information that was passed on. A couple more slides and then we'll get out of here. I just want to give you guys a heads up of some upcoming workshops that we have. These are actually virtual and in person if you can make them, depending on, you know, where they're offered at which school. But if you're interested, feel free to go to our Eventbrite page and register for any one of these events. And then again, our survey, it's not necessary to fill out, but if you did want to take the time to let us know what went well today, let us know, you know, what we could work on in the future. We'll take those into consideration and try to make this a better process for you all. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks for those that hung around to the very end. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to that 1-800 number. Someone like me, Derek, or Kevin will answer the phone. You can always email that CalTAP inbox. It's checked daily. Like we mentioned, if we cannot get the answers for you, we can direct you to somebody who can. Thank you again for being here, and we hope to see you guys at the next one. Have a good day.